Dam Ducks by Janelle Brangwyn. Bowral, 2576. Narrated by Chloe Schwank. "Where's it damn well gone?" Chris was yelling as we scrambled around in the bush in the darkness of a wintry evening. What on earth were we doing trying to find a black chicken in an even blacker darkness? We already had chickens. I thought it was time to have some ducks swimming on our dam, just to add to the bucolic nature of our new home. But they couldn't be just any ducks. They had to be the big, glossy black and green cayuga ducks that Chris had seen on a friend's farm in Scotland. Not the easiest breed to locate in Australia. Eventually, we found a breeder near Windsor. We drove back home with 5 ducks and 1 elderly Labrador eyeing each other off in the back of the Land Rover. There was much nervous quacking from the ducks and sniffing from the dog, and as little sniffing as possible from us, because before long the smell became putrid. In preparation for the ducks, Chris had built a duck house, a splendid A-frame complete with side decks, a mini Taj Mahal. After many trials causing much hilarity to our grandchildren, this was now floating proudly on the dam. Oh no, the duck breeder glared at us obvious amateurs. Absolutely useless. Foxes can swim too, you know. So here we were, arriving home with 5 ducks and no way to protect them. Not to worry, we thought. We'll put them in with the chickens until we build another yard. The chickens raced out as soon as we opened the gate and disappeared into the rainforest for their daily scrounging. That made it a lot easier for us to unload the ducks into the coop and set up a child's wading pool as a substitute for the dam. We shut the gate, pleased with this temporary solution, until it was time for the chickens to return for the night. Which takes us back to the beginning of the story, where we were stumbling around in the dark. Every afternoon, the chickens took themselves back into their coop to roost for the night, following each other in a long conga line, clucking happily all the way. But not this night. There was no way they were going in with those 5 quacking monsters splashing around in their coop. As the evening steadily darkened, we tried coaxing them with food and every other method we could imagine. Eventually, we succeeded with all but one, and that was the one that simply disappeared in front of our eyes. Or we presumed it was in front of our eyes. We couldn't see a thing. We stumbled around in the rainforest, tripping over rocks and roots, our torches as good as useless. I gave up. Come on, after all, it's only a chicken. We can't stay out here all night. Let's hope it will find a tree to roost until the morning. The next morning, sure enough, there was the lost chicken catching worms in the paddock, but giving the chicken coop a wide berth. That was absolutely awash with the spill from the wading pool. The ducks were having a lovely time, whilst the chickens were cowering in a corner. We had to find another solution. The veggie garden hasn't got much in it at the moment. We could put them in there, I suggested. Fine, except first we had to catch them. Of course, they raced right into the corner where the chickens were cowering. Chickens and ducks flew everywhere. Somehow, we got the ducks and their wading pool into the veggie garden, which was netted, but with no shelter from the elements. We piled into the Land Rover and drove the 15 kilometres to the tip to find enough materials to provide a temporary shelter as well as the permanent one Chris was going to have to build beside the dam. 2 hours and 1 groaning trailer load later, we were back with what we thought were some marvellously inventive finds, particularly for their temporary house. A long, low iron structure would be a perfect shelter, with some straw on the bottom. We put our special duck pellets in it and waited for their thanks. Do you think they would go near it? Absolutely not. Do you think they would eat the food? Absolutely not. We rang up the breeder. The breeder spluttered. I told you that they won't go into anything under 6 feet high. I was starting to think these beautiful ducks were nothing but little prima donnas. A week later, Chris was still hammering away down by the dam, and the ducks were still in the veggie garden, refusing to go under any shelter we built and refusing to eat anything that we provided. They found plenty of worms and snails and loved the chicken poo contained in the straw, so they weren't starving. But they and their yard were dominating our lives. It had seemed such a simple, pleasant idea to have some beautiful-looking ducks swimming on our dam. But now? What on earth made us do it? I moaned. Chris replied, "You did. Roast duck sounded pretty good." The end.